Good morning, dear students. Welcome back. Today's class is on the topic anatomy in relation to taxonomy, or you can also tell it the other way, taxonomy in relation to anatomy. These are the contents of today's video class. Introduction, leaf anatomy, stem anatomy, nodal anatomy, wood anatomy, cellular contents, floral anatomy, conclusion, and lastly, the references. Anatomical characters of vegetative and floral parts of flowering plants have been successfully employed to solve taxonomic problems and for the elucidation of the phylogenetic relationships. It was Bureau who for the first time used anatomical characters in plant classification for the delimitation of taxa of various levels within the family Bignoniaceae. However, anatomical data have been used extensively as a taxonomic tool only after the 19th century. Anatomical data has not only been useful at the higher levels, but in certain instances they have been successfully employed even at the specific level, species level. Auguste Mathieu is one of the pioneer taxonomists who used features of wood anatomy in the description of forest plants in his book Flore Forestier. Now, coming to the leaf anatomy. Leaf anatomy provides various characters of taxonomic importance, as has been rightly stated by Karlquist that the leaf is perhaps anatomically most varied organ of angiosperms, and its anatomical variations often concur closely with generic and specific and occasionally with familial lines. Leaf anatomy has been used widely in several taxonomically different groups such as Euphorbiaceae, Cyperaceae, and Graminae of angiosperms and Coniferae of gymnosperms. It has been one of the most reliable characters in grass systematics. For example, the leaf anatomy of several species of Cyperaceae was studied by Koyama and Govindarajulu, and they formulated keys to identify various species of Cyperus, Furena, etc. Brown surveyed 72 genera of grasses, and on the basis of their tissue arrangement, 6 main types were recognized. Then coming to the stomatal types. They are also very distinct in several families, like anomocytic stomata is seen in Ranunculaceae, diacytic in Caryophyllaceae, parasitic in Rubiaceae. There are several closely related families which are separated on the basis of stomatal type. Diacytic is seen in Acanthaceae, anomocytic in Scrofulariaceae also. However, in some plants, various types of stomata are present together. These are the different types of stomata, classification of stomata. And the right side picture is that of grasses, the dumbbell shaped stomata seen in grasses. Now coming to stem anatomy. Stem anatomy has also long been relied as a taxonomic tool. Stem anatomy has particularly proved to be of diagnostic value in herbaceous members. For example, anatomy of stems has been successfully employed in the delimitation of species of Dioscorea, which are otherwise not easily separable on exomorphic grounds. Now, these are two different plants, Dioscorea cayenensis and Dioscorea rotundata. They are morphologically exactly similar. They cannot be distinguished, but on the basis of stem anatomy, based on the differences in the vascular bundles, they both can be separable. So, Dioscorea species. Now, these are some of the diagnostically useful characters of the stem. the degree of elevation of stem ridges, the distribution and abundance of collenchyma, the pattern of collenchyma thickenings, transformation of ground tissue cells of cortex into transfusion cells, distribution of fibers, variation in the structure of cells of stem endodermis. Example in families like Piperaceae, Asteraceae and Lamiaceae. The characters of stem. Arrangement and type of vascular bundles. I already showed you the two pictures of the two plants, the two species of Dioscorea, that is Dioscorea cayennensis and Dioscorea rotundata. Differences in the pith. This is seen in species of Dubantia and Ficcia, which have been distinguished. The shape and size of sclerenchyma girders, used to distinguish species of the subgenus Genuini of Juncus. The nodal anatomy. Correlations of nodal anatomy with some other features might help significantly in tracing the phylogeny of angiosperms. So, nodal anatomy also has gained much importance in taxonomy and phylogeny of angiosperms in recent years. A comparative study of nodal anatomy may show important relationships or distinctness of genera or even species. Now, there are three major types of nodes: unilacunar, trilacunar and multilacunar. These are the pictures. Unilacunar, they occur in laurels, caryophyllales, ericales, ebenales, primulales, myrtales, etc. Majority of families of Asteridae have unilacunar, then which shows one leaf gap and three leaf traces. The second picture is that of trilacunar. This occurs in majority of dicotyledons. It shows three leaf gaps. And multilacunar, this occurs in the primitive orders such as magnoliales, piperales, trochodendrales and a few advanced orders such as umbellales, asterales, etc. So here you can see many leaf gaps. So that was about unilacunar, trilacunar and multilacunar types of nodes. The wood anatomy. Wood anatomy has been used at almost all taxonomic levels. Because of their conservative nature, anatomical features of the secondary wood have been very useful in taxonomy and phylogeny. Along with other lines of evidence, it has been successfully used in deciding the systematic position of primitive vessel-less families such as Amborellaceae, Tetracentraceae, Trochodendraceae and Winteraceae, all included under the magnoliales of angiosperms, the primitive families. Similarly, due to the presence of specialized wood, it has been agreed by all phylogenists that the Englerian group of primitive angiosperms, namely Ementiferae, cannot be considered primitive. Sclerids. Sclerids are cells with very thick lignified walls which are widely distributed in the plant body, and they have been used as diagnostic tools in several taxa like Connaraceae, Nymphaeaceae, Oleaceae, Thiaceae, Ammoniaceae and a few genera of Araceae, Acanthaceae, Ericaceae and Melastomaceae. In dicots, common in woody forms than in herbaceous ones. They are extremely rare in monocots, except in certain genera of Araceae, Agavaceae, Ericaceae and a few other families. Various shapes, size, characteristics of their walls are of taxonomic significance. There are two main types of sclerids, isomorphic and polymorphic types. Now coming to the cellular contents. Many types of microscopic characters of cell contents, that is, chemical deposits, can serve as important diagnostic tools and at times they prove extremely helpful in delineating species, genera, and families. Some of the important chemical deposits of systematic significance are as follows. The albuminoids in Laportia, the starch grains. The immense diversity in the types of starch grains may turn out to be a good taxonomic character for the angiosperms in general. Example, Solanum tuberosum, that is potato. Protein bodies. Deposition of solid protein depositions have systematic use. Example, some cactaceae. There are large silica bodies. The silica bodies in the epidermal cells of various families like Ericaceae, Musaceae, Zingiberaceae, and Rosaceae can be used at generic as well as specific levels. Calcium oxalate crystals. They are also widely distributed in plants and are of different types like prismatic, styloid, idioblasts, etc. Their distribution is very specific for a particular taxon and hence of taxonomic importance. Example, Eichhornia, Allium, etc. Cystoliths. They are nothing but calcium carbonate crystals found in Cannabinaceae, Moraceae, Urticaceae, etc. Tanniferous cells. The presence and absence of tanniferous cells in the root cortex of related families of Rapatiaceae and Xyridaceae can be used as a systematic criterion. Apart from these, presence or absence of laticifers, which are cells or a series of fused cells containing latex, and their structure has also been of some taxonomic value. They are common features of many succulent plants and other plants of arid regions and vary widely in their structure and the latex in their composition. For example, some species of Aroidae lack laticifers or any related structures, while others have longitudinal rows of elongated cylindrical sac-like cells. Lastly, coming to floral anatomy. As the reproductive organs show a high degree of conservation, they have been widely used in the classifications. At the same time, it is also quite likely that the vascular supply to these floral organs is also conservative and thus more reliable in taxonomic and phylogenetic interpretations. The floral The floral anatomical characters of families and genera are the nature of flower, the carpel, inferior ovary, and also several problems related to homologies, phylogeny, and taxonomy are solved on the basis of these. Examples of floral anatomy in resolving the taxonomic position of some disputed taxa. Confirmation of origin of families of Annonaceae, Calicanthaceae, and many Spermaceae from Ranunculaceae. Separation of Paeonia from Ranunculaceae and its inclusion under a separate family Paeoniaceae. Derivation of Pulmoniaceae and Caryophyllaceae from a Caryophyllaceous stock. These are some examples which have been solved and positioned properly on basis of taxonomic anatomic grounds. Melandrium, the first picture is that of Melandrium, second is Silene, and the third is Acer. So, these are some of anatomical evidences in relation to taxonomy based on the anatomy, how the plants have been taxonomically positioned according to their phylogeny. These are the references. Thank you.